The island is the only island authority in the United Kingdom which does not receive a funding uplift, a permanent consistent funding uplift to its council funding, which reflects the additional cost on providing services on an island separated by sea from the mainland and which does not have a fixed link. The Fair Funding Review from 2017, which was signed off by the Prime Minister now in a previous job, made it clear that it did recognise there were additional costs associated with providing government services on the Isle of Wight. And it set those costs at quite a high level. Roughly, for foot passengers, it was the equivalent of 30 miles, 35 miles extra in a vehicle. And for people coming over by lorry or car, the equivalent was some 70 miles, the distance from London to Peterborough. Since 1989, there have been 6 major studies into the impact of separation by sea on fair funding and public services on the island. And I'm going to just look at 2 of them briefly, if I may. Firstly was the University of Portsmouth model in 2016, and secondly was a commissioned study, a study commissioned by the government itself last year, working with me to look at the funding settlement for the island. The University of Portsmouth, and it was an excellent study, and I thank the university's academics for working on what was a great report, confirmed 3 separate economic factors at play that made the provision of local services on the island more expensive. Firstly, the lack of spillover of public goods between the mainland and the island. Secondly, the so-called island premium, which put higher prices charged by suppliers on the island compared to the mainland. And thirdly, the additional costs to the island that result from physical and perceived dislocation. 2 years ago, backing up this and building on this report, the government, at my request, spent about £50,000 commissioning Local Government Futures, LG Futures, a respected think tank, to review the evidence for the additional costs for the additional cost argument in the relation of providing public services to the Isle of Wight. And the review which the government itself committed to, the review which the government itself commissioned, and worked through the parameters of what that was and what it was going to be investigating with the Isle of Wight Council, with myself. The review confirmed the accuracy of every relevant study into the funding of public services on the Isle of Wight, that it costs more to deliver public services on the island, and specifically it costs more to deliver public services on the Isle of Wight for the reasons outlined by the University of Portsmouth. In many ways, I'm delighted with what's been happening in the past few years, and I want the front bench to make sure that they hear that. We've got a much better deal from government in recent years. Since I became the Member of Parliament for the island, we've got over £120 million of additional government funding, about £48 million into St Mary's Hospital, and that doesn't include the £10 million for the new diagnostic centre. Wonderful news. £50 million to upgrade the railway and Ryde Railway Pier, and that work on Ryde Railway Pier is currently underway, as the work is underway at St Mary's Hospital. We've got £20 million for the Isle of Wight College, and we've got £6 million to support shipbuilding on the island as well at East Cowes. And all of that gives much better life opportunities and much better life chances for islanders, which is what I'm here to try to deliver. However, when it comes to the provision of local government services via the Isle of Wight Council, we are lagging behind other islands in the UK, and our need, which has been backed up by every academic research, every coherent and responsible research into the island, backs up our argument. So I'm going to be meeting with the relevant minister on this in the next couple of weeks, because the government has, I'm delighted to say, reopened the case into looking at the Isle of Wight funding. We have the Secretary of State for DLUHC coming to the island in May to talk to the Islands Forum, which is a forum that I've helped establish with others, including council leaders in Orkney and Scotland and indeed in Wales, I believe. I'm hopefully going to be talking to the Prime Minister about this in due course as well. So I would like, please, that if the front bench, if the Treasury, if DLUHC could look at a fair funding formula for the island, this is one of the outstanding issues for getting a better deal for the island, which still has not been solved. We've gone a great deal of distance on health, on shipbuilding, on transport, on the Isle of Wight College for delivering that better deal, but a fairer funding settlement that takes into account that the Isle of Wight is an island is still eluding us, and I would be very, very grateful if ministers could work with me on that to solve this issue this year. Thank you.